I came to, and I was walking in a meadow. It was beautiful. Tall grass, large trees, and as I walked deeper into it, I saw an enormous statue. Something caught my eye, and as I looked up, I saw a large shape moving across the sky. And it slowly blotted out the sun. It got dark. A light came down from the craft. And while I watched, two small beings approached me. I could hear the being's thoughts, and it could hear mine. I said, When? When will you merge into our reality? And then she said to me, If you're seeking peace, you have to find it in yourself first. When I woke from my meditation, I remembered something else. It said, Only we can decide. Only we could decide what? They must have meant disclosure. That no disclosure will happen until they decide it's time. Welcome back to In Conversation With. And I know I say this every time. You're probably getting tired of me saying it, but In Conversation is where we have unscripted conversations with people who have these experiences or paranormal experiences, which are all related anyway, and people who have vested interest in it in research and have things to share. So we have those conversations. So I want to welcome Beth Ward um, to the show. And Beth, you came forward to us as a result of Yvonne Smith's group, or was it just from our website?
Thank you for having me. And
Absolutely.
I saw somebody telling their ET experience on YouTube,
Hmm.
and I got just a huge urge to reach out. So usually there's a purpose behind that, and so I just follow those things and did, and then we talked.
Great. So, so you're very open about this, as many of us has been, but not everybody. A lot of people want to stay behind the curtains, and I completely understand, being what happened to my career as a result of going public back in the '90s. But you're okay with this.
Well, so there's been phases. So I've been an experiencer since I was a baby, and after we talked, I just quickly made notes on my phone of all the physical encounters I have had over my lifetime, and I think there was 30 some on the list, and that doesn't even include all the experiences I've had that were not in my body. And so
Right.
when I was young, I talked openly about these experiences. I had pictures all over my bedroom wall that I had drawn with crayons, and People just thought
Wow.
I was being a creative kid and
Did you
didn't.
keep any of those?
No, I don't think so. I had a really dark childhood, and I don't think anybody was really paying attention. And
Oh,
uh, and then as I got older, I would get in trouble a lot for saying things that didn't match everyone's reality, and learn to be quiet and to not
yeah.
share these experiences. And then um, I it was just an internal world for me. I had sort of the flipped script. The ETs were the safe beings and the humans were not. And I came into my incarnation awake, and I knew why I was here and what was going on. It didn't make it easier, but I did know. And so then, fast forward to 1987, out of the blue, that was the year I graduated high school. I could not stop talking about the experiences that I had had with ETs, and to my horror, like I did not want to say these things. I didn't want to tell people, and it was just coming out of my mouth in the most awkward of times, and I was horrified, but I couldn't stop it. And I didn't know what was happening, and and then as soon as 87 was over, it just stopped. Well, later I learned that was what people call the harmonic convergence, which now I understand was the end or the beginning of the phase, the energetic phase that we're in now and ramping up for. And so maybe that's why, I don't know. But then I went quiet again, and didn't really talk about it, even though still having all kinds of hangouts with the ETs. And then um, when about 2000 and I want to say 14, maybe 12, 2012, 14, somewhere around in there, I kind of woke up and was like, wait a minute, I haven't even told my kids about this. Like, I've got to start sharing this. So brought them into the fold, and now we know they've had many experiences as well, as it falls in family lines, like we all
Yeah,
know.
it does.
And then when I moved, I uh, lived in Wyoming, born and raised in Wyoming, and then in 2016 got prompted to move to Nashville, of all places. And that's when everything started opening up. I just the experiences like tripled, and the ETs told me that the veil is really thin where I live, and sort of in the this Appalachian Mountain area, and so it's
Oh,
easier to.
yeah.
And so a lot more fun interactions came, and then I finally came out of the spiritual closet about 5 years ago and just said, I'm out here in the full, and told uh, stopped working in the real world, and started a channeling and healing business, and told people. I was sort of pushed to tell people who would never know about anything like this, and they were so sweet. I feel like the phases I went through with me sharing my experiences was like the phase one was like shock and denial, where everybody just stares at you and then looks away and says, "What's for dinner?"
Yeah.
And then kind of phase two was, I'll call it compassionate denial, where they don't believe you, but they think you need mental health help, or they want to help you. They don't know how to help you, but they don't dislike you. They almost take pity on you. And then sort of
Yep.
phase three, which started about, I want to say about 5, 6 years ago, was when people started coming out of the closet all over the place. It was very mentally driven and almost had a masculine feel to it. And it was the age of, well, what ships do they use and where are the bad ones? That was the first question out of everybody's mouth. Well, I want to know what ship they use. What fuel do they use? They could only think in 3D terms.
Yes.
And then now I feel like I'm in the phase of where everybody's starting to wake up and get it. And nobody asks. Everybody that I talk to knows this is a spiritual journey and is not about ships or technology and those things. I mean, they'll come, but we have all the technology in our bodies that is even better than the things we'll create on the external side. And so people are starting to wake up to that spiritual process, and I'm just like, woohoo! Now I have people to play with and talk to and have fun, and it's really fun. And there's a lot of um, generations below us that are just in the fold, and they don't think much about it. And I asked the ETs to join us for this conversation, obviously telepathically, but I asked them today what the percentage was of people on the earth that believe that there are ETs, and they said we're at 72% right now.
72%. Wow. That's certainly,
72%.
huh.
Yes.
Well,
And the other message, just by the way, that they wanted me to share is to tell your audience that it's time to come out of the closet, that there's a new energetic on the earth. And when you don't live authentically and you, uh, not that you have to run a billboard or a ad in the newspaper that you've had an experience,
yeah,
but
yeah.
as it comes up naturally to stay in your truth and your authenticity, because when you don't, it's self-suppression. You're suppressing yourself, and that's a 3D energetic, and we're into the 4D now, and so those don't mix anymore. And so they very sweetly said it's they were sort of like, it's time to come out into the light.
Yeah, it's technically when you withhold information and cover up, it's a form of not being truthful. And I do know and have heard many a times from many people that the visitors are very uncomfortable with people not telling the truth and telling lies. Um, you
I don't,
going back,
my crew, all the ETs I work with are not directive at all, and they basically just say, ultimately follow your heart. If if somebody said I will never do that, that's the worst thing in the world, they'd say
right?
okay, sounds good. But
That's
they
very
wanted
Buddhist.
but they wanted to offer the opportunity to think about it differently now that there's new energy on the planet that they might not know about. And when you're right, when you suppress yourself, it's like crunching down the energy. The flow gets crunched. Um, and why not be in the light?
Well, it's very much a form of self-imposed suffering. And but then again, when you think about and the people that I know who won't come forward, they're terrified of what their family's going to think of them, what their kids are going to think of them. Will it cost them their career? I know that when I came out in the '90s and did so much national television, that I was kind of the laughing stock of my family, of my colleagues, the people I worked with in Hollywood doing visual effects and filmmaking, and it was really bad. And then of course I was stalked and threatened by certain agencies. I People went to the film studios where I worked and told them I was a criminal and that they shouldn't work with me anymore. All that stuff that you heard about in sort of X Files type stuff was very real. And I had my
For
doubts about
sure.
it at
And
first.
I'm not minimizing any of that. I
Yeah.
know it's real, and I
No.
know the dark side very well.
Yeah.
And I think the opportunity that's being presented is that harmonics have changed, and
Mhm.
that was then, and this is now. And for sure, maybe not everybody feels this way, and that's fine.
Well, a huge
But
percentage
with
of them
some,
do.
well, or did, do we know they still do? Everybody's um, sort of being seeped in this new energetic, and
Yeah, that's
um,
what I'm saying is that in my work over all these years, going back way far back, is that I have found that people today that have had these experiences since their childhood, predominantly the large volume of them feel that this has been something very good to have experienced, and it has really changed who they are as human beings, and they like that change very much and would never go back on it. It would never say, "Well, I wish this never would have happened." But what most of the media reports and the books report and other things, there's a lot of propaganda out there to the contrary. I know that from the comments we get on the channel where people say they're all demons and you're all delusional and you're being, deceived by the devil and stuff. And then I want to ask you, I'm sure you're aware of it, but you know that the vice president went public uh, on national television in an interview saying that uh, the extraterrestrial aliens, I forget exactly how you put it, they were all demonic.
No, I don't. I'm not
You
aware
didn't hear
of
that?
it.
You didn't hear that?
I don't watch the news, and
Good.
I haven't for about maybe maybe 15 or 20 years now.
Wow.
And I find out what I need to find out through other people if it's important, and then the rest goes to the side. But
Well, that
I
scared a lot of people, him saying that, because now they feel
I
like they need to go
I
into
hear
hiding.
you. I hear you, and then I want to respectfully and with love
Yeah,
push back and share a different perspective.
absolutely.
Which again, everybody gets to pick their own. There's no judgment. You people
No?
play on earth however they want to play.
Hmm.
But my perspective would be pick your vibration. If you want more love and expansion, don't watch the news because that's the opposite. That's dark and contracted and dense. If you really want to feel safe, you're going to be faced with having to build safety on the inside and not look for it externally. And you're going to have to build self trust on the inside as opposed to looking for someone outside of you to validate your experience. And now that we're in a higher vibration, it's more easy now than it ever has been. And it's not easy, it's like a life journey, but it's worth it. And I think at this point, people need to start making a conscious decision about where they put their focus.
There are a
What
lot
makes
of
you feel good, and what makes you feel expanded, and what makes you feel contracted.
there are a lot of experiencers that don't want to come forward for all the reasons I talked about, but there's a lot of them that are also very desperate for disclosure. They want it from the government, and the reasons they want it, I think, are obvious. They want to be vindicated. They want their friends, their family, their colleagues, their boss to all know that they're not crazy. But it's also being reckless to be desperate to be believed. And what you're saying, I resonate with. I think it's important that you know what you experienced, you know what the truth is, and you surround your well, you surround yourself with people, as we do, that have the experience like you, all knowing we don't need any proof. We get asked for proof all the time, and we get chuckled at about not having proof. And I've had numerous times to get things on video and didn't bother because I wanted to take in the moment. I didn't care about capturing it on video so I could share it with everybody and say, see, this is real, because they would explain it away anyway. So I really agree with that.
Yeah,
That you,
I'm the same way. I just be in the moment and I don't really think about trying to prove it. But I think I have the benefit of having a lifetime of experience of it. So, as opposed to maybe somebody who experienced something for the first time as an adult would be very different.
hmm
I think it's an advantage to have grown up literally as a baby with ETs and not think anything different.
yeah,
Um, and I also think that even if the government tomorrow said, you're right, we were lying, we've known the whole time,
hmm
ETs are out there, I don't think it's going to feel as good because what I understand from the ETs is that at a higher level, all of these institutions that people look for direction and structure are built out of the 3D vibration, which we've outgrown on the planet. And so that's why they're crumbling. That's why the chaos, all of those hidden dynamics, such as domination versus freedom, expansion versus contraction, the pushing away the other versus compassion, whatever, victim perpetrator, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
These things have to come out into the light to be seen and acknowledged so that they can be processed and integrated. So that's what happens when you move from 3D to 4D. And the 3D structures can't even be remodeled. They have to literally disintegrate because the energetic can't move forward into the 4D plane. And so, or dimension, density, I don't know quite. I don't have all the technicals, but I know it's not coming forward. And so that's why we're not seeing honesty and the things people want to see, because we need to let go of that 3D paradigm that somebody has to tell us what to do. And we need a government like we've had, and we need education like we've had, and we need finance like we've had, right? All of it has to fall away before a new thing can be built. And so focusing on that is like voting for the 3D structure. And I'm not going to vote for 3D. I'm voting for 5D.
Yeah. Well, there's the other small matter of destroying our own planet for greed and profit is insane. And it won't take long before Mother Nature decides that this particular animal species, which we are on this planet, has gone too far. Like any overpopulated species, deer or other types of animals, if there's a problem, she always fixes it by coming up with something to take down the population in size to protect her and the planet and the environment. And we're not above that in any way, shape, or form. And we really need to,
What?
as we raise our vibration, we'll understand this more and more and more and start taking care of this planet. But more importantly, connect with it, connect with nature, because people seem so separated from it, like it's over there and they're over here.
Well, okay, so that's an interesting thing. I just want to write down the word connection.
Mhm.
That's an interesting thing, because here's what I've learned from the ETs is that number one, reality is literally a projection of the inner world. And so we each have our own reality. I'm not
Mhm.
quite sure technically how the group reality works, but we are inside of our soul having a physical plane dream. It's not inside of us, it's the other way around. So we're inside of it having this physical plane dream, our own version of it. And so our reality is literally like a screen of what's going on the inside. It's not a one for one screen. So if you see war, it doesn't mean you are full of war. If you see war, it might be something simple, like maybe the topic is suppression and you want to dig around in suppression a little bit more. Where have I suppressed myself? Where have I not allowed myself to expand? Something like that as an example. And so Earth is also part of that projection. And so Earth not being taken care of is the sort of the feedback system to say to us, we haven't been looking inside and taking care of the inside realm, the inner realm. So once we start to disclose to ourselves who we really are, which is source beings having a physical plane experience, um, and understand that we are fully and have never really been separated. We're just pretending to play a game of separation. It's like a dream inside the soul. So once we realize we're playing the game of separation and we turn around and go the other way and come back to oneness, we won't see the earth as a separate being from us. We won't not take care of ourselves. We'll start to love and trust ourselves and feel the safety we've built on the inside. and then you'll start to see the outer world change. A lot of people want it to be the reverse, and I've been there too, where I want to look outside and see that it's safe so I can feel safe, and I want to see it beautiful and peaceful so I can feel peaceful. And the ET said to me, that's like looking in the mirror and waiting to see yourself smile. And I was like, oh, I have to smile to see the smile. And so I've worked hard. I've been on like the Mount Everest of climbs in my lifetime of trying to move from this deep, dark place that I started with in my childhood to this giant climb of exploring and moving towards oneness and prioritizing the internal over the external. And I can say it works. The time and effort I've put into it has all been worth it.
It it really, and this happens a lot with this subject matter, is that so many of the things that the um, visitors tell us about are so uh, much like Buddha's philosophy. And I think there's a reason for that. I mean, right down to you're looking for the smile on your face, you have to smile. And one of the messages I got is if you're looking for peace, you have to find it in yourself first. And that really resonated with me because we meditate every morning before yoga, and we read Thai from the Plum Village, and he says a lot of beautiful things, but the things that he says so often are literally the same messages I've been getting since I've been a child. And I wanted to talk about that too, but first I want to hear your reaction to that.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think it's hard not to be sort of addicted to the external world because we have powerful eyes and senses, and we're been in a 3D reality that has sort of an overlay of external focus.
Hmm.
And then also our soul collective behind the scenes has been going through what is considered the young um, soul era, which is where you experiment with bringing forth as much energy and expressing it outward externally of yourself as you can. So that's why we have so much conquering going on, both good and bad, mostly bad, going on the planet. So we're all moving out of that into the mature soul phase, which is an internal focus. And that's the first
Mm.
time that you move into eternal focus, which is linked up with 4D, which is linked up with the heart chakra. And so the 3D reality is the primal vibration is fear. And so it's hard not to be addicted to the external world because you're so freaking afraid all the time of everything. Um, and
Yeah.
everything that happens, we see it that way. And letting go of that external reality is hard. And I know a lot of people who are working through that right now. And you almost have to let go of your entire sense of identity, which can feel scary in itself.
Letting go of
Because
the
you,
ego.
well, I would say it's bigger than the ego. It's the full identity because we identify with that 3D reality so strongly because it's all we've ever known. Those of us who've been being born, other than the kids, right? You were born into 3D. And so it is hard to make the shift. And I talked to a lot of people who've been working on this for years. But once they start to get it, they get some traction and then it's easier and easier and easier. So it's only hard at the beginning, kind of like when you first start working out at the gym and like the first 2 weeks are horrible. But then on the
Yeah.
third week, something kind of magically happens and you get a little bit of steam behind you. That's kind of how it
Mhm.
works.
Yeah. It's like when I started yoga and got serious about exercise and meditation. Uh, at age 61, it was tough. And here I am, 74, and I'm doing yoga every morning, and I'm very flexible and fine. And the meditation has led into constant, seems, communication with the visitors, for lack of a better description. Um, your childhood. I mean, that's something that I always like to talk about when I'm talking to experiencers because I remember very clearly um, a face looking through the bars of my crib. I even did an illustration of it. Um, and then at 6 years of age, I had a very, very physical experience where I was wide awake and, the lights came in the room and I was fascinated with it. I wasn't scared at all. And so I had that classic experience. A lot of it was blocked, and I tried to, under hypnosis to get some of that back. I was unsuccessful. But recently, reading Susie Hanson's book, there were things that triggered me in her book because I thought some of the memories that I had were too out there to actually have any validity to them at all. I thought it was just a really active childhood imagination. But I'm reading her book, and there they are. And one of the things I remember was them being there all the time, and I would be taken out of my home in San Francisco and up into the sky, and I would be in the craft or whatever it was I was in. And I remember other kids being there and in their night clothes, and also kids that weren't human, and the beings being there, and this sort of fun and educational process going on. And I always hated leaving it behind and coming back to this realm. And so I was very secretive as a kid, not talking about this stuff. I found out years later that my mother, before she passed away, knew. But that's another whole story. What I wanted to know, and that was a long way around about it, was if you resonated or related to any of the things I'm talking about.
Excuse me. Yes, I do. I remember it being very matter of fact, like they're my family, and they would come. Um, again, from baby, I still can remember being a baby. I can remember so many things, which I know is another common ET experiencer thing. And so I remember going with them, and I can remember even being like 3 and 4 and standing in my room, and I'm speaking primarily the hybrid program, so the grays, and the little
Hmm.
grays being shorter than me or almost a
Hmm.
little bit shorter than me, and the bigger grays uh, being taller than me. And it was like, okay, hi, let's get to work. And I'd be like,
Yeah.
okay. And they would come, and I have memories of being both like physically with them on the ship as a kid, but also have astral memories of doing things with them on the astral plane that were, I, I don't know, more diffuse examples of what was going on physically at the same time, and they helped each other somehow. And I don't have the details of what that is. I don't remember that part.
Hmm.
But the Greys were like my friends and my family and the people I trusted. And I thought of all of the ETs that I met as uh, think of it like a kid mind, just equal to God. Like when somebody said God to me, I would just think, yeah, the ETs. And the reason why is because of the unconditional love that I was experiencing, the high frequency love that was not, I wasn't getting, which wasn't even possible on Earth. And do you want me to hold on a minute?
Yeah, no, it's okay because the system I use will get rid of that sound probably. It
Okay,
usually does. I have a voice isolation mode that I use with the software I have. It's very effective. Um, if it isn't a voice, it doesn't let it be heard.
that's nice.
But yeah,
And
please continue.
okay. And so this was all fine and just part of how it went and something I looked forward to all the time. And it
Yeah,
was quite frequent. And then on the other side, the human side of my life was so dark and abusive that um, I
sorry to hear
was Yeah, thank you. And I know that's also a really common thing in ET
It is.
community, but
Mine wasn't so great either.
and so I was considering taking an exit ramp out of the incarnation. Like I said, I came in awake and I knew I was there to help uplift Earth as a little kid. Like I knew this. I knew that I was part of changing the planet. I knew I was an incarnation. I knew that it was just a precise moment, if you will, and was not the rest of me. And somehow I knew there were exit ramps stashed along the way throughout your incarnation. And so I was thinking about taking one about the age of 5 because it was too horrific between what I was experiencing from abuse in my family and then in addition what the density of the planet and alls I heard about in the 70s, people are starving, people are dying from disease, people are like, it was just rampant everywhere because I think we were starting to kind of link up globally a little bit more, like in media and whatnot. And the weight of that, those two things together, I just was like, I can't do it. And I kept telling the ETs, I can't do it anymore. It's too hard. I thought I could do it and I can't do it. And then about the age of 5, I had a ET experience that totally changed the trajectory of that. As my work with the hybrid program was sort of coming to an end, the some beings came in the middle of the night, and I had probably the most profound ET experience of my life with some beings who sort of the physical story of it is they landed in the empty field next to my bedroom. I looked out and I saw them. The kind of the storyline was that they were just kind of passing through. They're from far, far away. And I know everything's far away, but this was like beyond far away. But they wanted to stop and look at Earth. So there were scientists on board and they were like taking samples of dirt in the field and looking at plants. And I walked over there and it's hard for me to not be emotional about it. They shared a, a love with me that I don't even have words for.
Hmm.
And it was so high frequency that it was not an emotion. It was pure source, I guess is what we could say. It was beyond even, I mean, I know love and source are the same thing, but it
Yeah.
was like nothing I can describe. And after the event, um, they left and I felt differently. And when I was an adult, I just happened to be having regular counseling with Dr. Leo Sprinkle, who was like the OG studier of
Uh,
ET experiences,
yeah.
but he was also a counselor. And that's a funny story in itself, how he was in my life my whole life. But
Wow.
at a point in my life, I was getting counseling from him, and it was everyday counseling, like from my childhood. And somehow this experience came up. And so we were talking about it. And he said, "What's the message?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Every ET experience has a message. A message is given to you. What's the message?" And I was like, "I don't know. I didn't get a message." And he's like, "Close your eyes. Tell me what the message is." I closed my eyes and boom, I had it. And it was, uh, and the message was, "It's only temporary." And when I was a
Wow.
kid,
Wow. 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 Wow.
yeah, it's only temporary. And
I just got a
so
chill.
I had logged, and so that was beautiful, and everything just started clicking into place after I got that message, and it made everything so much more sense. And I knew I could remember then not taking, obviously, I didn't take the exit ramp, and remembering that I could do this, and it gave me a huge sense of empowerment to make it through the rest of the incarnation. And then the funny thing is, when I was started channeling publicly about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, this same group came to me to teach me some deeper channeling skills. They were the third group that came in to teach me. And they happened to be from another universe, not our universe. And they weren't,
There's plenty of them.
and they weren't very physical. And so what I saw were like capes over them, but I never saw a body. And so I asked, I'm like, now that I'm here, I remember not seeing a body. And they said, yeah, we are not physical like that. And then I said, and I have a memory of sitting in my bed at the same time. I have a memory of being at the ship and talking to you in the field. And they said, yeah, that's called, uh, shoot. Now people have heard this term before, but I can't say it right now. It's on the tip of my tongue. But where you can be in two places at once. And they said, that's what you did. And they said they thought projected in. So they sent their
Quantum
consciousness.
quantum
Um,
entanglement.
yeah, they sent their consciousness in and had the experience in sort of an energetic bubble. And bilocated. They said you bilocated. You were in both places at once. You were in your bed and you were over there in the field. And I was like, that's like the coolest thing ever. And they don't
Yeah.
have a name. They don't, they said that it's important that they don't get assigned a name because it doesn't match their energetic. It was funny when I was channeling them in public because it would rile people up. People would get mad. This was during the, hey, what's your ship made out of and where are you from and where's the bad guys?
Yeah, we
And
call it the nuts and bolts. Nuts and bolts.
yeah, and they wouldn't answer any of those questions. And instead, they only wanted to talk about love and oneness. And it would irritate all the guys in the audience, which was just funny. But
Well, yeah,
they're
I
beautiful.
get it. I get it. You know, everybody wants to know what they got under the hood and how it works, and it gets them from one star to another, or one dimension to
Well, and
another, or
it's such three,
to another. It really isn't important. I mean, it isn't.
well, and you
The
forget, I mean, the grays these questions are relevant for, but that's it. Everybody else is higher dimensional, right? And
right.
don't travel like that. And so it's a funny question in itself anyway, because we're so filtering everything through 3D.
Yeah, I get it. And only in the 3D. And most, it would seem, most people on this world right now are immersed in it. They don't even know there's anything outside of it. They don't even spend any time really ever connecting with nature and watching it or looking at the stars at night, which are still three-dimensional, but yet it's something that in doing so expands your consciousness and raises your vibration so you can connect with the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, and so on and so forth. So one of the things
Well,
I
and nature, well, I was just going to add to that. Nature is really important right now because when people start having open contact, whether it's personally or in a small group or eventually globally, one of the first species we'll meet is the Yael species, which is the sixth hybrid race out of the hybrid program.
yes,
And
yeah,
they're the most like us, and they really relate to nature, and they're a density overlay over our
mhm.
density. And so they do communicate to us through nature. And often, if you say, what's your name? They will have a nature name like petal or flower because they love nature so
Whoa,
much.
whoa, 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 pedal. Wow. Did you? There is a experiencer on her channel. She's a really nice, close friend of ours named Judy Goldschmidt. We did a film on her, not a conversation, where she talks about her experiences and the little hybrid child that she holds at the end of the film. She named Petal.
Oh,
It's a very emotional um, scene to watch because she's crying and she's relating this to us on camera, and it's very emotional, as you well know. And I had recreated what Petal looked like and the way she's rocking in her arms, and it was just an amazing emotional moment. But when you said Petal, I just like, wow, okay, so they're throwing in stuff right now as we're talking,
they
and I know
are. They are
and
they're
I know they are because
yeah.
that temporary thing hit my emotions, and I started to cry. It really got me. And I felt weird actually. It was just like something came across from you to me, and I felt it real strong. And I went, wow, she's so right. That's what it is. It's temporary. It's just only temporary, because I took me right back to being a kid and saying, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
I'm not from here. I'm not one of these people. And that was something I really kept to myself when I was a kid, because I knew it would happen to me if I talked that way. And it's really emotional.
Well, do you
And
know about Ross?
I, I agreed to come here.
Exactly. Do you know, have you read any of the Ra channeling, RA, Ra?
No, I haven't. I haven't.
Well, the Ra channeling was done like early 80s, and it's quite mental and heavy. It's hard. It was came through with three scientists, and so it's got sort of a technical bent to it, and they were so conscientious and trying to get the information correct for the world that people who are not like that have a hard time following it. And
Oh
but
yeah.
in there is the concept of the wanderer, and Ra talks a lot about wanderers, and these are um, essences, souls who from the fifth and usually the sixth density, who, and when I say density, I mean a um, a aspect of consciousness. I don't mean location. And so they're from the sixth density and they want to help. And so they wander around and they find a planet to do an incarnation cycle on. I don't think a full cycle like the natives, but come there and express through the incarnation, and they bring an anchor light into the planet. And what is the top way, Ra says, to wake up the wanderer on planet Earth, but an ET experience?
Yeah.
And so most of the ET experiencers are wanderers, as far as I understand it. And you aren't from here. And you feel the difference between the native people and the non-native people. And you're I want to change my mind. It's way too dense. This is hard. And I don't fit in. And it's not like I thought, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's because you're a wanderer. But the cool thing is, just being here anchors in more light, and you're doing your job. You don't even have to do anything, and you did it. You get an A plus.
Yeah.
And then you might want to do things beyond that. I definitely do things beyond that, um, and you're here to play and have joy and have fun. That's your actual job,
I have done that.
and why you're here. Yeah. And so, yeah, and if people are interested in these channelings, you can get it on the internet. The L&L Research, that's the nonprofit that was started to keep these available to the public, and they're all free and on the website, or you can just go on YouTube and get them.
There are a lot of people early on when this channel was born that when anyone talked about channeling, or they could channel, uh, they would always uh, react very, very poorly to it. They said, "That's it. You've lost me. I'm gone." Um,
That's funny.
yeah,
Because you're channeling just to be in your incarnation.
most of them all are. Well, all of them all are, and they don't even are aware of it. And then they always talk about Daryl Anka and the Bashar, and how he's full of crap and that kind of thing. And um, if you don't keep an open mind, and Gary Nolan says, if you take something off the table, you can never get it back again. And being that narrow-minded, being that judgmental, you don't know. You don't
Well,
know
that's
anything
just
about channeling. You don't have any experience with it. It's like the people that laugh at us for having and talking about these experiences the first time, and I've been around them when it happens, that they've been with me and they saw an object in the sky that they couldn't explain, or something in the house, in the case of my late wife, that she could not explain in rational terms. It completely changed them instantly. And in some cases, they became obsessive, like Richard Dreyfuss' character in Close Encounters. They would go from one of, oh, this is all bull and BS, and oh, come on, you don't really believe in this stuff, to absolutely obsessed with it, like a switch was turned on in them.
Yeah, yeah, it's common. I mean, we do this in our lives all the time. Like, first of all, everyone channels and can channel more things than they've been channeling if they want to. Just takes an interest and a little practice. But this is what we do in 3D. We build a box because it feels safe and it's structure, and we live inside of it. And we say anything
Yeah.
outside of the box is scary and we have to run away. And it's not true. And just look at science. It's full of ego, it's slow,
Yeah,
it's stiff, it's not nimble, it's so stiff and rigid, right?
it is.
And it's focused on what you can see, right? And now look what's going on. They're like, what? There's an invisible world called the quantum field, you know? So things change slowly, but once they get there and a little curiosity comes forward past the fear, I think that's when things turn on for people. And um, I've seen the same thing in my life too. People are just like, you are insane. And then they're like, oh, yeah, I just heard the other channeling the other day. You know, like they just turn on a dime. And I would say to people, you have to just remember, again, this is an inside game. You have to use your discernment. If you hear somebody saying something, whether it came from their personality, their human personality, or they channeled it, it filters through the personality. My guides told me that the most humans can get right, like the accuracy level when they're channeling is around 80% when they're
Hmm.
doing like the top job they can do because of the density we're in right now, right? Like only about 80% will get through that's correct. And that filters through the person with their filters on. And when I
Yeah.
channel, I get completely out of the way, but not everybody learned that. And I'm not perfect either. And I have belief systems that I don't know I have, and so on and so on. So when people hear stuff from channels and they're like, that's not true, I can feel that's not true, I'm sure they're right because it's probably filtering through the person's personality and their own fears, and it's getting a little tainted in there. And then when I started moving up in frequency in this last several years, I can now feel people's accuracy meter in their channeling. It's a funny gift. I also teach people channeling. And so I can feel how accurate it is, how much of it is personality, how much of it is coming from higher dimensional energy. And I'll tell you, it's like, you know, that instrument when people hook, is it the brain, the EEG or whatever, that kind of goes like
Yeah.
this and
Hmm.
it's all over the place and makes a lot of scribbles. That's how the accuracy goes. Super high, down low, super high, a little bit lower, super high. So it's not, you cannot give your power over to the external and somebody else to tell you what to do. You have to take responsibility, use your discernment, and feel in your heart chakra, your heart space, what feels accurate.
And after all, we're all connected to this source, and the uh, non um, what's the word for it? I'm having the same problem now. Non-local consciousness, that when we, especially when we leave our bodies and we're in that realm, all knowledge is available to us. And so if we're able to make that connection while also in the physical, then we can channel that knowledge. And that's what a lot of people who channel have been doing. But when people talk about channelers, they think about the guy like poor old Daryl Anka. I always go back to him. He sits there and he gets in this whole thing, and good day to you, and they just have a real hard time with that. But that's not
Yeah,
how
I don't,
all channeling is.
no,
I'm sitting
it
there in
isn't. And it's not going
I'm sitting there
go
in,
ahead.
in meditation, and things start getting channeled into me. And I mean that I've told this story before, but it happened very recently where I had seen this mantis before when I came to when I wasn't supposed to in a auditorium full of people who were all under a state of hypnosis from the grays and the mantis type looking being. And there was someone on stage instructing or talking to everyone. And I remember seeing the mantis, and it looked right at me. It says, "I know you can see me," and it put me out. But then when I was in meditation, And I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just in meditation and we do in the morning, and there its face was right in my face. And it took me back to my first day in school, and it wanted me to feel what it was like to be in first grade and look around that room. What do you remember? And it was very emotional. It took me straight out of my meditation, and I just started crying because it was so amazing. That's also channeling. It
It
still
is
gets
channeling. Yes,
still gets me.
absolutely. That makes me want to say two things. One about channeling, and then I want to say something about mantis. Um,
Oh yeah.
the the first wave of channelers, I can feel the ego in there mixed in
Yeah.
with the higher dimensional energy. And I think as we're moving up in vibration, everyone else can too. And this is why, like about 2 years ago, all of a sudden everybody I knew was like, I'm not listening to channelers anymore because I can just feel the ego in there. And that was a natural process. Like we were supposed to be able to see that. But the next wave that's come out that's channeling through the heart space, it's less, and they're bringing through different type of information. I'm part of that group, and I'm sure the kids that are coming up are going to be even cooler, and so on. And or maybe by then everyone will just channel their own stuff. But um, I asked why some of the old school people had the accent or all the things, and I was told it's because an aspect of their mind has to prove it to themselves that it's not them. And so to feel comfortable and relax and bring the information through, it needs to be different for them. And so that's why they do it. When I channel, it's just me. And as I've been really moving up in frequency in the last year, I've integrated enough that I don't even have to like close my eyes and focus. I can do it right now as I'm talking, like I just sound like this right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's starting to happen to other people too. So that's, I think, why it's hard for when you catch those older ones that have been doing it, it feels like that. And then
They
the thing
call
I
it
wanted to say,
down they call it downloads too.
yeah, yeah. And everybody gets them. Even intuition is channeling. You're
Yeah.
channeling from your higher
Yeah.
self, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
And you're,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, your higher self is supposed to be your main guidance system, not your egoic brain structure. But in 3D, that got a little unbalanced, and we were playing the game of separation so hardcore, we felt separate from our guidance system. And so we forgot about the higher self. And then the ego got really big because it was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's just us in here. I better protect you. And it's a fear. It kind of works on protecting you from all the fears in 3D, which is not helpful. And so when I teach channeling, the first thing I do is put people in touch with their higher self. And they're like, oh my God, that was so easy. And I'm like, yeah, because that's how it's supposed to be naturally, is you're supposed to be able to talk to your higher self all day long, from the most mundane, like, should I eat this vitamin, to like, where am I going to go in my life? Am I on track? The higher self has all the answers for that for you. And it's very straightforward. It doesn't come through metaphorically. It's almost sounds a robot-y to some people because it doesn't have personality. It's your sort of your library of information. And then the body's consciousness, you can channel that just as easily. That's another really super easy one.
Yeah. It's almost like it's a form of a supercomputer, like we could never imagine, but don't have to because we're connected to it. You know? Wow.
Right. It told me that it's the raw channelings talk about this too, and so do the Michael teachings. That's another thing that was the how tos of incarnation, um, the stuff that came through, which is the higher self is the sum total of all the incarnations, both on the like in the earth, but also other ones in other places. And it's the manager of them. And so it has all the answers. And that was the thing I was leading to, which is counterparts. I don't know if your audience talks about counterparts, but
I haven't heard them
most
use
of,
that term.
most of the ET experiences we have are with our counterparts, the an aspect of our soul that's incarnated in another body on another dimension.
Oh, geez. All you
And
have to do is go to sleep at night to have that happen.
and it's my and again, I might learn that this is not true in a year and I have something better to say, but at my current level of understanding, it's my understanding that there's 12 dimensions and we have 12, there's 12 of us, and they're their own beings, but they it's our soul dividing up into these 12 different entities. And I've met almost all 12. I haven't met the seventh dimension one. I don't know what that is. But my 12th dimensional counterpart is a mantis being. And again, the love, the support that is phenomenal. Like that, I don't even have words for it. It's a white. I think she's female and not very, kind of in the middle, but maybe leaning a little bit female. But man, when I'm like really need something, that counterpart comes through to me in meditation, and it's
Uh,
beautiful.
as you were saying that, I was getting these flashes of both the mantis and the tall, painfully thin female, large headed, spindly fingered, but very delicate gray, tall.
Yeah, I
And
don't, I have a gray counterpart, but it isn't the gray, that kind of a gray.
mhm.
I don't know where your gray comes from. Do you have a sense of where that gray is from? Is it just another timeline, or is it a
No,
different?
and I never think to ask questions like that.
Yeah.
At the moment it was happening, I was just so in awe of what was happening. And now that things have become less physical and more on um, the conscious level in meditation and dreams and just sitting there at at a restaurant with people and it comes in and I have to sort of collect myself and not let people know what's going on. That happens more now. Um, and we were always being set up for that. A lot of people I know have been saying, well, you don't have physical abductions anymore. You don't get the bright lights through the window and they don't take you up and all that kind of stuff. That's because it's not happening anymore. And it's like, no, it is happening. And everyone I know practically says it doesn't happen so physically anymore. It does. But overall, it's like we've been set up to connect with them without ever having to be physical or be taken physically. We're never taken. We always go with them. But so,
Right.
but
The
I
hybrid.
need to focus on that question you asked me more over time.
Yeah, just ask. Usually, when you get in that higher dimensional energy, you have no questions because you're just floating in the oneness and you're in bliss.
Yeah,
And then
I
you leave
know.
it and you're
You're in
eating
the
breakfast
moment.
and you're like, yeah, and you're like, why didn't I ask this? But anyway, um, it's my understanding that the hybrid program, the old school, as people being, I didn't ever feel like I was abducted, but whether it's abducted or you went with them, is done and successful. And as soon as we meet the Yael and then the hybrid children, will become the seventh hybrid race, and we'll have completed it like a circuit, an energetic circuit. But I also understand that there are grays from different timelines that worked with people on this
Hmm.
project, and some were a little better at it than others. And it's my understanding that the grays got better over time. So, like, they quit using implants because they didn't need it. They had an energetic imprint on the person, and um, they started working with light DNA as opposed to physical DNA in the beginning. And they, when they started working with people, they had no emotions, which weirded everybody out or was a
Yeah,
horror thing, right? Because they got that way because they shut the heart space down so they could get more intellectual. And that
right.
scared the crap
Yeah.
out of everybody, right? And then the mantis beings came in and helped. So that's why a lot of people have experiences with grays and mantis at the same time, because they needed help doing what they were doing. So it just sort of depends on who you linked up with and at what time, I think. And it's my understanding that the Greys originally, the larger population of Greys who were like, we've got to solve this problem, um, they went to their counterparts. They knew who their counterparts were on our dimension and looked for people who had open heart space, energy, easy to access. And that's who they went, that's who they picked. That's how they picked family lines, was they took a internal assessment of their own crowd counterparts and said who are the best subjects to bring through the emotional body and the heart space back into the equation to get more balance. And that's who got selected.
Yeah. Yeah. Emotions are they're kind of like a drug to something that's been disconnected from them for so long. It's like somebody put LSD in your drink and you don't know what's happening to you and you can't handle it. It takes you time to acclimate to yourself to them, to the emotions, and be able to still function intellectually and not react but respond to moments that you encounter in your existence. And keeping basically keeping your cap on. I mean, I go back to Gene Roddenberry, who I worked with, and the Vulcan race, and his idea about that was that they avoided war on their planet by being in control of their emotions. They never got rid of them, but they learned almost on a Buddhist level how to calm themselves to a point where they started working together and they were able to explore space
Well,
and stop
well
creating war.
what the ETs have shared with me is that a couple of things. This is how we got into this. I'm gonna call it a mess. But
Yeah, it is a mess.
it turned into a beautiful opportunity for everybody. But it's my understanding the Greys are humans on another timeline who tried to go the Vulcan route and shut the emotions down and get very intellectual.
I've
And they
heard that.
eventually destroyed their planet, and then they had to go underground. And then they got to the point so evolved, so intellectual that they fully shut their heart space down to free up the mental capacity that they wanted to. And they became masters of timelines. Like they can navigate timelines like no other species can. But they eventually that led to cloning because it was easier. And they eventually got to the point where they could not, no one could incarnate in those bodies anymore. They hit the end of the road. They didn't provide, they'd come so compacted consciously that it didn't provide enough incarnational experience for a soul to experience. So they couldn't populate and keep the species going. Like the bodies would just die because there was nothing for the soul to experience. And so that's when they were like, well, we don't want the species to die out. So we'll navigate the timelines, go back to Earth, another Earth that still has, we'll go back where we're as advanced as we can be, but still have the emotional component where it needs to be and tap in there and get genetics. And so they did. And what I've learned from other species, not the Greys, is that our level of emotions are very unique to our galaxy, that they might feel some, but they're a little more on the mental side, and they don't do emotions to the depth that we do, and they didn't have the deep dive and separation that we have been exploring. So we're seen as masters, true masters in the galaxy. And the ETs are saying the universe, not just the galaxy. And so because we've transversed this deep density of separation and now we're going back into oneness, and they've said that this is really an experiment in consciousness, that our this is how I understand it now. Our soul collective have been on other planets and other incarnation cycles. So the humans
Yeah,
started in the Lyran star system. I don't even know where that is. And humans tend to develop quicker mentally than emotionally. And so we swing mental naturally. And so then by the time we learned to spread out, we went to Orion, the
There it
Orion
is.
system.
I was waiting for you to talk about Orion because
Yeah. So
that's my
then
home.
Star
That's my home
Wars.
spot.
Okay, so Orion, from a soul's view, is learning about polarity and more specifically, learning about power. So the incarnation cycles on Orion were where we got some polarization to consciousness in our galaxy. And that's where you start seeing service to self and service to other type beings, and sort of two, again, polarization, two sort of paths that the incarnates want to follow. And that's where you get kind of this thought of dark energy and light, dark and light. And so then, as we played around with power, that group then eventually did an incarnation cycle on Maldek. And that was a lesson in what if we misuse power? Well, they blew up Maldek. That's the asteroid belt.
Right.
And those group of souls had to go into healing and defragmentation for a long time. But once they came out of that, because they all died at once, they started incarnating on Mars. And so Mars was the experiment of, okay, can we rebuild? But do we really need to do all that healing stuff with emotions? Let's try to rebuild, but more on the mental side. So again, back to that Spock thing,
Yeah.
leaning that way. And what happened? The atmosphere got blown off the planet, and
Yeah,
it didn't
it
work
sure
because they
did.
weren't balanced. And so then the next place was Earth, and the souls understood at this point, okay, we have to have balance. We cannot get out of not having balance. So Earth is designed to be a processing planet where we can play out these previous cycles up close in a contained space where we're not going to do any damage. We've been given a plane of Earth that we can't do much to. Even though it'll look like we are, it's still fairly safe. And that's why rampant across the earth, you see these victim perpetrator power versus, or what I want to say, slave and master, to put it
Mhm.
simply. Um, and we're working through that. But just in the last 2 years, we've started to break through that, and people have become more balanced, and the emotional side has come forward, and people have seen the value in that. And as you rise up in vibration, that dark energy that is a natural part of source, but a small finite part, becomes irrelevant, and you move into uh, basically a lot more light. And so you don't have to worry about it, because as you move up in vibration, it'll go away anyway.
Yeah. Just recently, the Pope and the Dalai Lama are working together um, for peace, and they're
Yeah, like
condemning.
you're going to start seeing.
It's that's a huge sign of what you're saying is true. Uh,
Well, the Epstein files is a huge sign, because all of a
yeah,
sudden the covert is becoming overt. And that's the point. We have to bring it out into the light to pick something different. If we don't know it's there, we can't pick something different.
there's so
Right.
many.
And so that's why, yeah, that's why it's chaos right now, because we're bringing it into the light.
There's so many good people here on this planet, and they really do outnumber the people that would do us harm. And it's time we uh, not took control of it, but spread that vibration clear across the planet, so that this stops. It has to stop. It just can't
It
go on
will.
like.
We've outgrown the structure. Again, it's a 3D structure. And so it's spreading quickly. I mean, I can feel it
Yeah, no, it
energetically.
is. It is. I think Artemis is just about to launch. I don't know if it did or not. I sure hope it was successful. Um, we went well over our hour, but this has been
Oh,
such a fascinating conversation. Um, in closing, I just like to ask you, and I really do want to have you back so we can have Beth part two.
yeah.
I think you have a lot more to share with us. Um, but in closing, um, I've often wondered, and I've heard Susie Henson talk about this, that there's this first wave, second wave, third wave, and a fourth wave, and that the hybrids are really big players in all of this. And I get this feeling that they are placed among us in very strategic spots, and some of them may not be aware that they even are hybrids. But as things start to move forward more and more and more with the things you're talking about, they will be switched on. And what will be their capability and their influence on the human race to raise its vibration and move away from war, greed, and destroying the planet, if any?
Yeah, it's so a couple of things. It's my understanding that the wars and all the things are again Orion themes being looked at up close and personal to figure out, especially like things in the Middle East. Um, but we can look at that with compassion and love and say
Yeah.
we pick something different and be more neutral about it, I think. And I know that's hard. It doesn't mean we don't care, but we also don't need to dip down into the lower frequency. And
It's
so,
hard.
right, it is hard. And
No,
again, so sharing the
I'm
love,
asking. I'm asking the question: is it hard? Because I'm not finding it so hard anymore.
it's
I
not hard for me, but I hear a lot of people say it's hard.
Yeah,
So, but again, you're going to do what you're working on yourself. Everything in your reality is a mirror. So if you cannot not engage with that, it's because you're trying to find something out about yourself about that. It's showing you it's probably not about the war, but there's something in there relevant for you. So that's why it's hard not to engage, which is fine. I think it's totally fine. But what they said to me was that we're all hybrids. Literally, every person on the planet
yeah,
is technically a hybrid because we were started with a whole bunch of uh,
yeah. No, it's true. I did this
species.
classic drawing of a gray, a tall one, offering a modern human baby to a Neanderthal inside the craft, sitting on a table, and it was
Yeah,
sort of
like the
yeah,
if you talk to the Bigfoot species, they will tell you that that's if we hadn't had ET genetic manipulation, you know, millions of years ago, we would look like Bigfoot. That's the natural Earth body.
yeah, sure,
But because we got a little boost from good guys to, I think probably us on another planet, to get going, we look like we do now. And but the hybrids, especially the hybrid children from the Gray experiment,
hmm
have been on Earth physically, and they do sometimes take little group trips. And a lot of people I know have dreams of teaching them how to function on Earth. Like, I have a friend that has lots of dreams about teaching them, like, how do you buy a dress in a store? Did you know that New York is actually an island? You know, random, silly things like that. And my kids have dreams about this. We call them hotel dreams, in case any of your audience have had them, because there's a lot of like opening and shutting doors in the dream. And I think that's like moving among dimensions, but we don't really know. But anyway, they're here, and sometimes they walk around if they feel safe enough to see if how our body reacts to the energetic, because a higher energetic will bring out the lower energetics within you. Like your fear will be pulled up in you when you move by a higher energetic body.
oh
And
yes,
so that's been going on. They've been here and there, taken everybody's temperature, and that's how they sort of understand, among also really fine technical stuff about vibration, about when to do open contact. When they know it's time, they know it's time. But I
it's
do
going to
think,
take more time.
but I think the ETs are telling me to say this, the biggest thing to remember is they are not here to change anything or rescue us, that we have to
No,
meet them. We
that's
have to become empowered, go inside, find our safety and our power and our self trust, And that's how we meet them up in the middle. And because if they come in and rescue, we're just in the same situation we've been in 3D, where somebody outside of ourselves is telling us what to do, and it's not empowering at all.
So that's, that message that I got. If you're going to look for peace, you have to find it in yourself first, is so
Yeah.
simple. And it's a lot of the messages I've been getting over the years are very just one-liners, and
Yeah.
but so much is contained within that short sentence that you can think about it for a very, very long time, and it's like unpeeling an onion. It just keeps the meaning behind it keeps getting larger and larger, and your acceptance of it
That's
larger
how you
too.
know that's how you know you have a higher dimensional message. They're super simple on
Yeah.
the surface, but then they have endless layers to them, and you see a new thing. Once you move beyond a level, you'll see a new thing in the message.
Well, Beth, this has been one heck of a conversation. I know that that the people who watch this channel will, a lot of them, most of them will resonate with everything we said and that you've said. My God, and I can't wait to have you back so we can continue this conversation. So, um,
Yeah, I'm excited. I get again, this is my favorite topic. I could talk about this all day long. So I would
well, our
love to.
whole audience is that way because all the trolls, all the people of of a lower density, as you described it, or vibration, have left the channel long ago. And what's distilled down is this wonderful group of people, um, who talk and believe and know, more importantly, know, not believe, the way we know. So it's
Well, that was two things I wanted to say personally. Was
Mhm.
number one, I just wanted to thank you for providing such a safe place. That's the first thing that stood out to me in the
Absolutely,
video that I
absolutely.
watched on YouTube is people feel so safe, and so thank you for providing that for people. And um, the other thing I just lost my train of thought. The other thing I wanted to say is that years ago when I was doing an ET group for people, the ETs, I went into meditation before I started the first group and I said, what's the most important thing I need to know, ETs, as we talk about ETs? And they said, remember, Beth, all truths are true. And I was like, wait, what? What does that mean? And they said, all truths are true, that um, if everyone can believe something different and everyone is right, like we don't have to debate what's right and wrong or accurate and not accurate because
Oh yeah.
person's truth is true for them in that now moment. And even if they decide to change it later, it was still true. And so people may feel resonant with what I say and they may not. And it doesn't matter because all truths are true and everyone's um, being true to themselves. So hopefully.
Again, that's very Buddhist. Beth, thank you
So
so
thank
much.
you.
Yeah, it's been really great to have you on the show. Um, what you've been talking about today is really what this channel is all about, and I'm in deep appreciation. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you.
We really want to thank you for subscribing to our channel. And so that you never miss a new episode or a movie, please hit the notification bell. Thank you.